And here to save the day is Senator Joe Griffo. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Bill. How are you? I thought you were playing an episode from Sex and the City there.
Yeah, well, that was all going on at the Capitol yesterday with the governor and this woman. And
it's more like that crime live show that Houck was talking about, that True TV.
What about this usage?
TD, right?
Yes. Usage of the cell phone is apparently illegal and can get you arrested inside the Capitol building.
I think everybody this is a time when there's a lot of emotion here. Nerves are frayed. People have been going on for long hours, which is really not a good way to do anything, as normal people would understand. So I think there was a little bit of an overreaction, unfortunately. There is a rule, but some of this stuff needs to be reviewed and modernized, obviously, because you don't want significant distractions during session and conversations, but also a rule like that is something I think that needs to be reviewed. Nowadays, people have these devices everywhere. And so I think it was just a little bit of an overreaction. I don't know what really happened. In fact, this is the first time I was hearing it from you. The day before, we had a coyote on the State Museum, so it's just like...
I saw that, too, yeah.
It's wild. And, I always told you, remember, Bill? It's March Madness, not only on the basketball courts, but in the corridors of the Capitol.
So, it really, really is crazy. That coyote thing was haven't they told us there aren't any coyotes around New York? Or
the DEC has said there's like 1,500 active pairs of breeding coyotes.
All right, your question.
So, Senator Griffo, in reviewing the cell phone in the session quarters or whatever.
Is this Andrew?
Yeah, this is Andrew.
All right.
Hopefully, this won't be an additional delayer of the state budget, this whole cell phone issue.
I thought Bill would be playing Freebird, for Ken Lovett now, but no, it won't. These are the distractions, and sometimes I think it gives people a chance to maybe catch their breath. The negotiations, discussions are ongoing.
Well, and Joe, they seem to have been productive to the point where reports that I'm reading, looks like you guys have cut out most of the tax increase out of this budget.
Correct. We have been very firm in that from a Senate perspective because when you look at it, it's an affordability issue here in the state. We talk about how everybody's leaving the state, how difficult it is to do business in the state. So I recognize we have financial challenges, and we want to support and fund many of these very important areas of the budget, like education, healthcare, things of that nature. But we have to look at how we can reprioritize instead of looking at new ways to tax people and then to direct that revenue. So I think the good thing is that conversations are continuing. We're going to be briefed very shortly on what took place overnight. We really, as you know, we're up against the calendar this year, not only from the budget deadline of April 1st, but also the religious holidays, the observances of Passover and Easter. Mm-hmm. So it's made it a little more complicated, and that's why I think a lot of the policy, rightly so, in my opinion, has come out of the budget because they're contentious, and that could delay the budget. I understand the executive's desire to do that because he has an upper hand in the budget process. He has that leverage. But I think right now, from my perspective, in the last reports last night, and we were out till late last night having meetings and discussions, things are continuing to move forward. I'm hopeful when we go to conference in the next hour that we'll have reports that we have some agreements and we can begin acting on some of the legislation this afternoon.
Joe, I know that we always talk about school funding and foundation aid, the fact that schools, especially upstate, continue to feel and feel the pinch and money that they feel is still owed to them. How will schools fare, and is that part of your talks right now?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a number of issues on the education table. I sit on a couple subcommittees right now. One is economic development, and the other is energy and environment and agriculture, because that's the chair of the committee that I have during regular session. So I'm not sure I'm not privy to the specifics. I know there are some outstanding issues, but there's a general agreement and there's consensus in both houses that we want to drive more money to education than the governor had recommended. Where that figure will end at the end, I'm not sure right now. I'm hopeful that it'll be significant, but again, there's a number of demands. We have hospital issues across the state with funding and like SUNY's hospitals, both upstate, downstate. There's just so many things. Public safety. We want to put money in school resource officers right now. We believe that we should be directing money towards helping to harden our schools to ensure that these educators and children have a safe environment. We know there's a problem, and there's a lot of factors to that have to be taken into consideration. One thing we can do immediately is direct resources, and I don't know where we're going to be at that, but we're going to continue at least to try to make that happen too.
I want to know one of the schools in this area that is struggling in fiscal distress is New Hartford, which is something that we're not used to hearing. New Hartford in a fiscally distressed situation. Have you had conversations with Bob Knoll? Has he communicated to you that they're in quite a deficit this year?
Yes, we actually had the superintendent here in Albany and meeting with our senior finance staff and our education experts. And I'm hoping that we have a focus on that right now, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to deal with helping all of our schools and directing more money to education, but have a specific focus and attention on New Hartford's unique fiscal plight at this point in time.
All right. How about, are we also safe when it comes to money for the hospital, money for Nano, money for all these projects that have been talked about? Here's the governor saying we have this horrible deficit. Are those monies still safe?
Yes, those monies are still allocated. They've been previously allocated, so they sit in a budgetary reserve in that particular department. Like in the situation for instance, Nano is under the Empire State Development Corporation. So that money, while the governor can and the legislature ultimately could have, as we did at the last time, if you remember, to correct what the governor tried to do administratively through executive actions. So there's always that possibility, but in this budget cycle, everything is still there for the hospital, for Nano. Everything remains in place. I don't know what we're going to see for increased funding in some of these areas. We're going to drive more money in economic development. For instance, we've always done things for base retention and redevelopment because our military assets are important when you look at a potential BRAC. But so it's going to be interesting. The other thing that's very complicated right now is the governor still wants to do something to deal with the federal issue relative to new federal tax policy. It looks like we're moving into a voluntary kind of approach, which I'm not sure how that would work. But as long as it's not a mandatory thing, that's something that at least we would consider. So we're not imposing anything on any private entity or governmental jurisdiction at this point in time.
And finally, there's a bill out there that's been proposed that I think you might have some involvement with, and that is it would make it a hate crime if someone were specifically committing a crime against a firefighter, public safety officer, a police officer, etc. What are the laws currently, and what are you familiar with this bill, Joe?
Generally, I know that we're talking about. My focus over the last couple of days was to prevent a bailout of some of the casinos that, like Del Lago.
We'll get to that.
County. But in this particular instance, we're looking at continuing to provide protections, particularly when you look at what's taking place right now. These new threats that are appearing and taking place in general society, but also targeting our emergency responders, our law enforcement personnel, and firefighters. So we're looking at different ways to ensure that people know. And we've talked about this too, even with some of these people calling and making threats right now. There's got to be a consequence to action, and we need to make sure that we're there to support our emergency services personnel, our first responders, both police, fire, EMS, all of these
and I know that this all started with maybe based on religion or sexual preference or maybe race. But what makes a hate crime any different? I mean, than when a murderer kills a child, rapes and kills a child. Right. What makes it any different? Why is a hate crime different from something like that?
Well, I'm not a legal expert, so I would have to talk to somebody in the legal profession on differentiation, but I think the perspective here is to ensure that people know that these are individuals that put themselves on the line each and every day. Hopefully, you're not going to have common day threats or occurrences in average citizens in society. But when you're wearing a uniform and you're out there trying to do your job and protect people, you're more subjected to other types of interference or threats, and I think that's the reason for that right now.
And then I do want to get into, by the way, more school threats in the Syracuse area this week. They're still getting these fake threats that are going on, shutting schools down. It's really just terrible what's going on out there, Joe. But Del Lago, the casino coming out and saying, well, numbers are flat. And by the way, Joe, it's something you predicted. Too many casinos are going to dilute the market. You're going to have troubles. And sure enough, look at where we are. But they want a bailout of some sort. What do you think?
I think it's ridiculous. And think about it, Bill, because you said we've discussed this on your show many times when this started. I voted to let the people have a choice in making a decision on whether they wanted gaming. They decided to have it. From that very point on, I said, move very slowly. Look at the economic conditions across this northeastern part of the country as well as the country as a whole, and move deliberatively and make wise decisions. But the Gaming Commission was ridiculous. There was a proliferation at a rapid pace. It made no sense when you looked at it. For instance, Del Lago was supposed to be sited in the southern tier, and they considered somebody made a decision that the Finger Lakes was part of the southern tier.
Yeah.
It's just outrageous. And now we're seeing everything, unfortunately, that we prognosticated is now coming into fruition. And you have these casinos now saying, we're not going to fulfill our projections, so we need help because we hired all these people. Look, they were sold to us by the governor as a revenue generator and something where more money could be directed to education and beneficial to communities. Now we're seeing a reversal of this where they're asking for the taxpayers to do more for them than what they're going to contribute to the state.
And what they're blaming it on is what you said all along.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like they're denying that.
I mean, think about it, Joe. You've got Schenectady. Then you go down the thruway, you get the Turning Stone, and right around there now is one in Chittenango and over on Oneida Lake.
Yeah.
And then you go down to then you get down to Waterloo, and you've got another before you get into the Niagara area.
Yeah, and I don't blame the Native Americans who have been operating these enterprises like the
Turning Stone, right? And the Niagaras, these guys have been doing this for. They're the ones that stood to hurt from all of this.
And even Gorell had, I think, a legitimate concern
with Vernon Downs.
With Vernon Downs last year. I mean, being in a facility that's been around a lot longer.
But he got one of these casinos, didn't he? Didn't he get?
He got the casino in Tioga, and they actually are having some issues too. But he isn't asking for anything.
Right.
But here's the problem now, Bill, and this is going to be something that we keep an eye on because it's going to be happening. So what was meant and intended to be a beneficial policy for the people of New York.
Yeah.
Now we have a mess. And now it's going to be up to the government to straighten out the mess, which makes no sense to me. It's just ridiculous and outrageous, to be quite honest with you, that we were sold a bill of goods on how this was going to be a solution to a lot of the economic woes. And now we're facing this major problem with casinos, and everything, and how are we going to figure it out?
I don't know about you, but I'm excited about getting an 80% off deal on a Nintendo at Toys R Us and a slot machine at Del Lago. I'm waiting for the big blowout sale, Joe. Let's go.
You're going to be doing that on your Facebook app,
That's right. That's right. You can buy on Facebook now. It's really incredible. All right, Joe. It would be positive if you guys came out of there and said, listen, taxes aren't going up like it was thought that was going to happen. So I think that's a positive.
Absolutely. And I want to tell you one more thing, Bill. I know we've been trying to get you here to Albany, and I just want you to know we were not going to lure you into the lobby having you use your phone, and that makes sense.
Actually, that would be pretty awesome of a bit.
I do want to meet that woman, though, that came after the governor, Joe. If you can arrange for that, we'd like to interview her.
Maybe Assemblyman Barron could make that arrangement because he normally interrupts the governor during his state of the state.
We've had some audio on him in the past. So, all right, Joseph, thanks so much. We appreciate it.